Okay, now that the back is glued on and has had time to dry, you want to cut and shape anything that's overhanging on the back so that it's flush with the sides, just like we did when we put the soundboard on the front. And then we're going to cut a channel for the binding and the purfling. You can see I've already started here and put the first piece of binding on the inside of the back. Now this was done with the router just like we did with the front part. And now I want to show you a little different method using a chisel for putting the rest of the binding on. Now this is just a little homemade piece I've made with an X-Acto knife blade. And now the center piece is the thickness that the binding is going to be. It's going to be the exact thickness you want that top channel to be. And then this is just a little bar to guide it along the edge of the back. And I've just glued all that together with some super glue and just left a little bit of a point there. Now the idea here is to just slide this along, keeping that guide piece flush with the back, and to score a little line in the wood. You're not really trying to go deep here. You just want to make a line so that the grain is sort of cut, so that when you chisel it, it'll chisel straight down into this line. And make several passes like you see me doing here, getting just a little bit deeper each time. And then once you have that line scored, you can start to take your chisel and chisel out these spots. And you want to chisel back until you're flush with the piece of purfling that's in there already. And just take it nice and slow, little bitty chips and pieces, until you get everything down to that line that you scored. And just work your way all the way around the guitar. And you can see how we've gotten it flush with the purfling that's already there. We've got a nice little squared channel here to put that binding in. You can see here how it's going to fit in place. This is just a little scrap wood to show you how that binding sits in that channel. And again, go all the way around. Pay particular attention there at the point, especially this. That's a kind of a tight curve, and another point there that you want to watch. And you can see the channel I have here that's ready for the binding and the purfling that's going to go to finish that edge up. And you can see that those little corners there and those inside miters can be a little tricky, so just take your time with those. And then just like we did on the top, just glue your binding in. Do pay special attention over the curve in the back, especially if you're using wood binding. You may want to steam bend it to get it to smoothly go over that curvature. Okay, and then we're going to work on this piece at the bottom as well. Once your binding for the back is in, sort of scrape and sand it smooth like we did with the top binding. And I'm going to use a little scrap piece of, this is the same rosewood that I'm using on the peg head. And you just want to clean up the edges and give it a little taper. I'm just going to use a small finger plane. You may want to do it with sandpaper till you've got a shape like this, just a nice smooth taper. And you can really make it any size you like. And then I'm just going to draw in a center line. And you want to measure the width of that space, the width of the sides there, and make you some lines perpendicular to that, and cut that so that it'll be flush with the binding. And note, if you put a little piece of purfling on the side, between the binding and the side, be sure and take that out of your measurement. Make sure it goes from binding to binding. And just double check that you've got the right measurement there. Like I said, from binding to binding, without that piece of purfling, you're going to cut that piece out. And then go ahead, and I'm just taking a little dovetail saw here and cutting this piece to length. And there you can see the finished shape with the center line that we're going to put right there. And now we're going to put some purfling there as well before I inlay that piece. Now I've just put a little piece of tape here on the side, and I'm going to take a piece of the purfling and just sort of measure it, make sure I've got a little extra length on each end. Then I'm just going to use some super glue or crazy glue and glue it onto the edges there. And I'll just put the purfling on and fold the tape over so that it can dry in place. And do this on both sides. You should have a little piece that looks like this. And now I'm going to put this on. I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to score the sides once I get that piece centered. You may even want to sort of tape it in place, but you just want to lightly score the side where these go. Not really going deep again. You just want a good mark of where that inlay piece fits the side. And now I'm going to take a straight edge and go a little deeper with it. And just make a few passes. You really don't want to get too deep with this. You definitely don't want to go through the side. About a millimeter's depth would be plenty. And here I'm going to make a couple of more passes, just nice and easy, to really work those edges, sort of where that line meets the binding. And then just take a chisel and start smoothing that out and taking out that excess wood. And I kind of start in the center. Try not to go all the way to the edge just right off the bat. Take little bitty bites, and then you'll work your way up to that scored line. And then take some really small bites and kind of finish it in there and get it to where it's smooth across the width of that, and that it'll fit into place. And now once you've got it in, you might need to trim the ends up a little bit and sort of shape them to fit, and take an X-Acto knife and sort of miter those little edges in the purfling. Make those look good. Make them look nice and squared there. And then once it's fitted into place, you want to glue it in place, wood glue or epoxy, and then just sand it all smooth.